Welcome to the Grace Space, a transmission for the sovereign soul.
And so I've learned to present information in many different ways so that children can tap in from any different space from wherever they're at. Because I know for a fact that, where, people sort of say, oh, the aliens are coming. I'm sorry to say, guys, they're already here. They've been here for a very long time. And I'm just going to put it out there because I've seen them. And so that's probably, without going into details, because I think that will probably give some things away that I probably shouldn't do at this stage. All I can say is that a lot of the things that you see in movies as propaganda, just because someone or a being in front of you looks different, does not mean that they're not a beautiful heart-centered being and that they're, here to, there should be no fear at this stage. And I feel like on the internet these days, there's a lot of propaganda and fear about all different types of races. And you do create your reality. So I only have really loving beings around me anyway at any given time because that's what I attract. But I don't buy into all of that sort of fear.
Hey everyone, real quick before we begin, if this content matters to you, you're warmly invited to subscribe to this channel, to like this video, to leave a comment, or all three. I read all the comments, and your engagement is really important because when you engage, it tells YouTube to push this content out to more people who would find value in it. Now that I understand this, I engage a lot more with the channels that are important to me because I know it really matters. Thanks for listening. Here we go. My guest in the Grace Space today is my wonderful friend, Teresa, a top educator. I'm just going to brag about her a little bit. She literally has won every single award that can be given to teachers in Australia. Okay. She's also a mentor. She also has a radio show. Her life's work is devoted to reimagining education, reimagining learning, and what it could be if learning were aligned with nature, with intuition, with the innate sovereignty of the human being. What would learning be if we were totally true to our nature, to ourselves? Teresa spent decades working within the educational system, teaching in classrooms, across cities, in remote communities, in online learning environments. And over time, she naturally began to see clearly the limitations of the structures that we've inherited. And like many of us, she reached a moment where the question could no longer be avoided. And that question is, what if the system itself was never designed to cultivate free, creative, sovereign human beings? What if the system was actually designed to do the opposite? In this conversation, we're exploring what it might look like to return learning to its natural state, rooted in curiosity, community, play, responsibility, connection to the living world. We're talking about children, but also the child within each of us, the part of the human spirit that longs to question, to explore, to rediscover and remember the real. And as you'll hear, this conversation unfolds into deeper territory as well. We end up talking about language and power and consciousness and all my favorite things, the awakening that so many people around the world are currently experiencing. So this is not a conversation about rejecting learning, quite the opposite. It's about remembering that learning is life itself. And seeking for a more organic way to learn that reveals our genius, that pulls out of us the wisdom that our soul already knows. So settle in, take a breath, join me for this expansive and thought-provoking dialogue with Teresa. Your life's work has been devoted to learning, not as a
Mm.
system, right? But as this living, breathing expression of who we are, this unfolding. So, would you speak of reimagining education and what you're really inviting us to remember?
Oh my gosh. Um, that's a really big question for me because I've been on such a journey and learning is pretty much where it's at. I feel like reimagining, particularly in the education space, is getting outside of the concept of four walls and an expert out front, because learning is life. We, in any given moment, there is something to learn, and there doesn't have to be a set class. So, because we live learning, exploring, and experiencing, and expressing, and expression is learning. And so, to reimagine learning, it's to reimagine the way that we've been really socially engineered and programmed the last 100 years or so, to move away from, the homeschooling and the small groups and the following the mastery of whatever it is was your passion, to just cookie cutter. Everyone must learn one thing. We are going to impose on you when you will learn, what you will learn, when you're allowed to go to the toilet, you need to pee on the bell, all of those sorts of things. We've just shifted far too much away from being who and what we are and connecting to nature and following our passions. And it really bugs me, actually. And I've been trying to flow against the stream within the system for such a long time, and always doing things differently, of course. And people, I used to have full on debates, I don't bother anymore, with people who really kept going against the academic. You need to be teaching academically. And it's like, no, it's the person, it's the being, it's that state of being and how they're feeling, and the failure. I love the failure. Uh, just reshifting our perspectives on the way we are doing things, and imposition, I think, is probably the key word, and coming back to choice. So when I feel about reimagining, it's pretty much everything that we do, starting to question, why do I do this? Is it because this is the way that I've shown? Is there another way? And stopping and reflecting, is it actually the best thing for me and whoever it is that's in that space at that time, and having that relationship and connection? So I know that's a long-winded answer, but it's a really big topic, and there's so many different ways that I could go for
Oh,
this. And
yeah.
it got to the stage where I couldn't try to change the system within the system. I literally burnt out. It just didn't work for me. And I was tired of saying, well, you know what, someone should do something about this. Until I realized, of course, I was someone. It was like, okay, well, put your money where your mouth is. What are you going to do? So, yeah, that sort of led me to where I am today.
Okay, so there are like huge streams in there and so much, so many questions that came to me as I was listening. I mean, first of all, I think we have to recognize that there is a system, right? And we're talking about beyond just the educational system that everybody knows about. There is a system beyond that system, and the people, the well-meaning people who were saying to you, oh, well, we got to focus on academics, and to me, it speaks to this unconscious stream, raging torrent, I guess we could say, that we've all been caught up in, striving for something we don't even know what it is, really. Well, I got to get the
Mm-hmm.
grades. Why? Well, you got to get the grades so you can get into the right school. Why? Well, if you get into the right school, then you get the degrees, and then you climb the ladder and all of this. And why, right? I mean, I certainly grew up with that mindset, which was like, well, you go to school so that you can, get the degrees and the proper education so you can get the right job or the right I mean, I was kind of already outside the system because I didn't have a normal, life, professional life. I was always outside the system. But most people are chasing this dangling carrot, right? Without really questioning, well, where am I going with all of this? I think there may be a small percentage of people who are really driven by a thirst for knowledge and an academic passion that they want to follow. And so in that case, it's appropriate. But a lot of people just aimlessly follow through the system because that's what they've been told to do, and they don't get a chance, and the system doesn't give them a chance to breathe within that and to have the space to really question, well, who am I, and why am I here on this planet, and what do I have to offer? But those aren't the questions that the system of control wants us asking.
They want us distracted so that we don't do that. And really, we have been socially engineered to just be on autopilot. Um, and it's tribal thinking. Our society is tribal. You grow up and the society does the thinking for us. You just follow authority, you turn up, you have to have to go to school, you need to do this, blah, blah, blah. It keeps just going on. But the issue that I have had with that, particularly the last few years, is that where is the choice? I mean, yes, you can go to some cities or you can go to some places and there are choices. There are Montessori schools and forest schools and Steiner schools, and you do have options, but not everywhere. And a lot of people don't really have that many options. And a lot of families do not have the ability or the circumstances to be able to homeschool or do different things that a lot of people, well, there's a whole worldwide movement towards it, let's face it, because the children who are coming through now, such high frequency, and they just will not stand for it anymore. They're coming through with that innate knowing that this is wrong, this feels wrong for them. And the system, I used to say for years, we are the system. But, obviously recently I've realised that no, there is an agenda. There is a distinct agenda as to why things are happening the way they are. And over the last 30 years, I've watched it play out. And it's been very subtle and it's been very clever, but it has to come full circle. And it's getting to the stage now where, there are schools now run entirely by technology. There are no human teachers there. The children go in, it's independently, completely technology. And these children plug into devices and off they go. So that's a slippery slope to go down at the same time. So, where does it stop? And everybody needs to have a choice to do what they love. And I think choice is what it comes down to. But at the same time, I just want to be able to stop and say, hey, what are we doing here as a humanity, as a species? Where are we headed? And tap back into nature and who and what we are and why we do things. So instead of being on default autopilot and then all of a sudden waking up and having 12, 13, 14, 15 years of your life in education, which really is indoctrination these days. And I know I probably technically shouldn't be saying this, but that's what it is. I'm just speaking truth.
Please do say that.
Why are we doing this? And for parents not to just hand your child over to a stranger to raise. You don't know what values that they're instilling in their classroom, and you really need to get involved and support the children, or balance at home your values and beliefs, and give the children that critical thinking and that ability to trust their own judgment, not anyone else outside of themselves. There's just so many layers in where we are today and where I foresee us moving and shifting to in the future, even just now. It's happening right now.
Thank you for that perspective. And I absolutely encourage you to use the word indoctrination, because let's call this a spade a spade. I mean, I was thinking back to the moments that I remember from my education, my educational background, and they're really divided into two categories. One is trauma, the moments where I felt traumatized by something. And the other moments that stand out are the moments that were real, the moments where a teacher reached me because they were being a human being or because they sparked something in me that was real. Those are the two kinds of memories that I have about school, and everything else is kind of a blur. And yeah, I mean, I think it has moved more and more into indoctrination. And, come to find out that a lot of things that we were told it was history, uh, is either a very biased perspective or in many cases not even true.
Absolutely. And it's a shock to find out. It's just like, a what? What do you mean? And I was one of those people because I love to research, going, no, you're wrong. I'm proving you wrong. I'm going to prove you wrong. And then that actually sent me further into proving them right because I was discovering all of these other perspectives I had never considered before because I was too distracted working, surviving, on in the rat race, and that's the problem, is distraction. And our children today don't know how to focus. Well, that I shouldn't say that because that's not a blanket statement. Many children today, not all children, have really lost that ability to stop and focus. And when you focus and you pour that passion and that intention into something, magical things happen because we're creator beings, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, at this stage, the children are, many of them in some of these systems are really losing that sense of self, and really getting that disconnect. And that's what I'm concerned about. And when I was saying to my friends, someone needs to do something about this. And it's like, we're having conversations like what you are and I are having right now. And whoever it is that's listening right now, you are the people that are going to make a difference. Just one tiny little conversation, one shift in perspective, one planting the seed of an idea of, does it need to be this way? And starting to question and then following up with action. If every single person on the planet did that, we wouldn't be where we are today. So
That's
much can shift so quickly if we come from our heart space and get out of our heads.
Well, I 100% agree with you. And it seems to me that, the big shift in mindset that I get, it's happening, but the big shift in mindset is that between sovereignty and slavery, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the school system, I feel it, overall, if I'm generalizing, the system itself teaches us to be good little slaves of the system. And it's not teaching sovereignty yet. There are certain schools, I'm sure, that are much more focused on that, on allowing children to come from natural authority, which is, and I'd like to hear your perspective on this too, Teresa, because children, I mean, on the one hand, I feel like, well, children are, their brains are still developing. They're finding themselves. They don't know who they are yet. All of that, that's true, and at the same time, they are divine creator beings in young bodies. And so, they have an innate natural authority, an innate sense of intuition. And I think the most painful memory that is lodged in my heart is of the loss of that through schooling, which was like a scythe that cut me off from a sense of naturalness and a sense of real spontaneity and creativity as a being, and even just remembering it now, I have this emotion that comes up because I'm aware that somewhere along the way that was just severed, right? And it's a terrible fate that awaits most children who enter into a system that does not see them as a multidimensional being that wants to force them into, a mold and kill their spontaneity, their creativity, and their innate sovereign creativity, I guess we could say, right? Their their expression, their soul expression. So, um, how do we allow children to express their innate creativity and uniqueness? And how do we, at the same time, provide some kind of structure for brain development? Or maybe I'm just answering the question in my own mind as I'm asking it, because maybe it is the natural approach that helps their brains develop in a more multidimensional way, rather than developing, only certain or heavily weighted toward one side of the brain, as opposed to, hemispheric awareness, double hemispheric awareness. How do you, what does a real school look like these days? How do we get there?
I just had so much going through my head right then when you were talking, because I was like, it's just rich. Everything you say has so many rich layers in it. I'm just loving this conversation. There's already lots of places already doing this. They're all over this. So it's not, and it's not one size fits all. So it's all is not lost. There's a lot of amazing things happening in the world. A lot of incredible opportunities to happen, are growing and sparking, and has been for decades now. I feel like what you're talking about is, how do we get that current system to shift in this direction and pivot in this direction? And I will admit that probably if you'd asked me that question 5 years ago, I would have said, look, that beast of a system just needs to naturally die a death. And people need to build an alternative system. And I don't mean alternative as in let's all be hippies and kumbaya. I mean an actual practical alternative, as in apprenticeships and connection to community and real life experience that's going to help with that contribution to community. And learning more about self is just everything. Who and what you are, what's your learning preference, your health, your well-being, all of these things have many different layers which are important. And I feel today, however, I don't feel as polarizing. There are a lot of little things that can be done, but it has to start with the leadership. If the leadership are going to stamp down and say, you will teach spelling at 10:15 every day, and we are going to come around and check, and here is your pre-program, you are going to teach and say this script. And I know for a fact this is happening in schools, and teachers are walking out in droves because they're just so unhappy with not only the way that they're being told to teach, but some of the content is quite disturbing, actually. So I think the shift is play. We need to come back to play. We have to come back to spaced learning. So the latest neuroscience has shown us that you cannot just keep stuffing your head full of facts and figures, that you get cognitive overload. You have to have space. And so our best ideas come when we're in the shower, or we're walking on the beach, or when we're alone and you have that silence. So where is that in the learning today? It's just next, next, next. And the pressure and the judgment with all of the assessments and this and that, and we're going to judge you, and you have to achieve, and you need to look like this, and you have to say this, and just enough already, just enough. So we learn through stories. We know that. If you tell a story, children will really get so much out of their story in so many different layers. We learn through play much faster than what you could do for any type of learning. We already know what the answers are. We learn through nature. Mother Nature, Sophia, is grace. She is grace. So, grass does not have to strain to grow. It's not getting a hemorrhoid out there. It's just doing what it needs to do. So why are we trying to make the children strain to fit our mold? We just need to, adults, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, need to be there as a mentor to create the space, to make sure that they're safe, to if I'm going to have a tinker shed, for example, and they're all going to come in and they're going to fix old broken bikes and they've got hammers and nails and saws and all sorts of stuff, of course you're going to need to have the safety talk and show them what they need to do, and then get the hell out of their way and let them build and create. Same thing if they're going to build a chook pen for the back of the school. Get them to do the chores. Why are we employing cleaners in schools? Why aren't the children cleaning up after themselves? Why aren't they responsible for growing and cooking their own lunches and preparing and serving their food and getting those life skills? I ran a business. My husband and I ran a business years ago, and we employed well over 20 teenagers. And I had a girl come in one day and I asked her to mop the floor. It was a pizza business at that stage, and it was a food business. And there were 2 mops in the mop bucket. And she's going, "What do I do?" I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, there's 2 mops. How do I mop with 2 mops?" I said, "Well, take 1 mop out of the bucket and you just use 1 mop." And she could not, for the life of her, work out what to do, because they'd never washed up. Everything was done for them. That's a real concern. I've seen children in a prep classroom who had never seen a book, and they picked up a book and they're swiping the front cover going, "This one's broken, nothing's happening." There is something wrong when we have this situation. And that was 6 or 7 years ago, actually probably longer than that actually. That's when I sort of thought, someone's got to do something about this. This is just not right. When some children are being born and they're being just thrown in front of an iPad from birth, that's their babysitter pretty much. And yes, technology is very useful and can be good as a tool, but it cannot be the be-all and end-all. We have to have that connection to who and what we are. We have to have relationships with each other and with nature. So there's so many different things we could do with, having farm stays and camps and apprenticeships and just practical living life and learning through those everyday, very simple experiences. I mean, I could go on and on and on. There's just so much that we could do, and we could do it right now. It wouldn't cost anything. It would simply be a shift in perspective, and it would be that simple. But the biggest thing would be to give the children a voice. And you can't say, "Oh, they're little children, they don't have a voice," or teenagers, can't be trusted, they can't have a voice. Absolutely they can. You give them choice, and then you allow them to reflect, and you allow them to map their own growth and also follow their own passion of what they would love to do, and then come back and feel like they contribute. I mean, I know the Shitinian schools in Russia that fit in with Anastasia books, the forest schools that are over there, they have that sense of community and they are doing things for the rest of the group. And when they feel like they're contributing, they don't want to let them down. And then they learn deeper learning because of that sense of connection. And that sense of belonging is really vital, rather than everyone having to compete against each other for a grade. That's just
my goodness.
It's insane. It's insane. So once we start shifting our perspective and people saying, what can I do? Well, actually, everybody can do something. Even if you're a grandparent, next time you're with your grandchildren or even the next door neighbour's kids, just step back and allow them to climb that tree. So there's just so many different layers to this, and I don't feel like it needs to be, let's go and write a program. I think it's just people before program, and we have to come back to that common sense of listening to our own gut and our own intuition and allowing the children to learn to trust their own. How does this make you feel? If it doesn't feel right, if it feels a little bit off, then we need to stop and pause. What is that? If it feels absolutely right, yes, go and do that. Within reason, because if they think they're going to jump off the roof and fly and they think they're right about that, then obviously we're going to have a conversation. But it's just that holding a safe space for the children and creating a lovely ecosystem so that they can bloom at their own pace, but having accountability. They need to learn accountability and responsibility. It cannot be a free-for-all, because then that just becomes a big old mess. We can't go from such structure to a free for all, free range chicken, free range children. It just doesn't work. There has to be some sort of learning structure. And the sweet spot these days seems to be about 1 or 2 hours of formal structured learning and then not, play or
Right.
explore or go to an apprenticeship or do whatever it is that you're going to be doing that's more practical and hands-on. That seems to be there's a lot of success in many different places around the world that are having that success, and it's working so well to be able to do that. Working in with the circadian rhythms as well. Anyway, I'm rambling. I know I've got so much to say about this.
No.
My brain is just like so full it could just explode.
Well, I mean, this is such an important topic, and something really struck a chord with me that you said about deeper learning. Deeper
Mm.
learning. That really, I felt like my whole system, a vibration went through it because my memory of test taking and, overall was of superficiality, right? And I never really felt like I was learning anything. I felt like I was just memorizing stuff so that I could get the best grade I could on the test to get to the next level. And I haven't retained really any of the learning, let's not say any, most of what I was taught academically, I have never retained because it was not learned at depth. The real learning, as you say, is the deep learning. And, the times that, and I love what you said about having the kids participate in taking care of the upkeep of their school, of their classroom, of their environment, growing the food that they're going to eat. All of that, when you get involved, when you get your hands dirty, when you are involved with your environment, then you're connected to your environment. And I mean, I remember just on the few occasions growing up where I was allowed as a child to take responsibility for my environment. Um, Specifically, I'm thinking of the church that I grew up in was a pretty cool church as churches go, and we had a lock in. We could have a lock in with the kids where we spent the night in the church, and we got to run all over the place through the administration, through the offices, down into the kitchen, and the all of that, and like washing up in the kitchen and things like that. All of a sudden, my feeling of going to that church was completely different. I felt involved. I felt like part of me was in the church, and I felt, implicated, just, on a social level, like I care, right? And that's just one example, but it seems to me that, yeah, if we stop dividing children from their environment and allow them to take care of things. The environment's just an extension of ourselves. I mean, I can't go to a place and live there or even stay there without trying to do something to make it feel more harmonious, more beautiful, more cared for, because my environment is an extension of me, and it bothers me when I go someplace and I can't do that for whatever reason. I like to get my hands dirty. I like to clean. I like to rearrange things. I like to change the energy around. I enjoy doing that because it connects me to my environment. So imagine a world where, kids were not just going to school like they feel like they're going into prison. And a lot of schools nowadays, public schools are practically prisons. Um, you know, but going into an environment that they care about because they care for it. And everyone has a part to play in uplifting the environment and connecting to it and connecting with one another. It doesn't seem to me that that's a chore. It might be viewed that way initially because we have unprogramming to do, but I think that really touched me what you said, and it feels really special and like there's something really important in there.
Oh, and Claire, the word connect, which I think you just said that about 3 or 4 times. That connect is everything, because it's connection to self, but also connection to why, our why. Why are we doing this? What is the purpose? Does it have any meaning for me? Because to have deep learning, it needs to have meaning. Otherwise, what's the point? So why am I learning this? Why am I doing this? So if it's doing it for the community or to help others and having that sense of accomplishment, you can't buy that. You can't go, you can buy your children all the shiny toys you want, but you cannot pay for them to have that sense of, I did that. I managed to do that. I overcame this and it took me a little while, and that I did that and I'm helping other people. Because we know we get the endorphins and the dopamine hit when you help someone else, you feel so good. But even observing someone help someone else also makes the observer feel good. We know that emotions are contagious. And that's one of the best things that adults can do, is be calm and steady, be very aware of the frequency of their voice and the tone of how they're talking and communicating to children. The number one thing, the worst thing you can do is yell at children. It's just the worst thing you can do. It doesn't matter how frustrated you are. If you're really frustrated, walk away, lie on the ground, do something, anything, rather than take out your frustration on children. But that connection is everything. Although I do have to admit, the last little while, I'm having, I used to say, service to self, service to others. It's really important to serve others. And yet through the whole sovereignty movement, and I know the word sovereign over here in Australia has really been weaponized. It's really sovereign. If you say sovereign, it's just like someone saying conspiracy theory. It's been put in the same bucket, which really annoys me, because it's just so far from the truth. But it's just that I've completely lost my train of thought. It's when the children are thinking for themselves and doing things for themselves. No, it's gone. It's gone. It's just deleted. It's like someone's just pressed delete on my brain. It's gone.
That's okay. I think, it's like the train tracks they went a different direction now. And I'm inspired to ask you a question, about sovereignty, or sovereignty, as you say. In French, the word is souverain. So, you know, because really what we're talking about, in a larger sense, is this movement from imposition, as you said, right, toward sovereignty. And you're part of a national sovereignty movement in Australia. You're working with natural law and self-governance. So how has this deeper understanding of jurisdiction, and let's talk about that, reshaped the way that you see education, for example?
It's had a profound impact on me, actually, because I'm questioning even the words that I use and the true meaning of words. So going back and, I'm constantly getting out my etymology dictionary and going, oh, what you mean that word means that? So we have been absolutely played when it comes to media and the propaganda that's out there, and the words that have been slipped into our society and massaged into words that we say every day, and we don't realize that we are speaking it aloud and actually creating that reality, and because we've had a different meaning. So taking back our language and our power and comprehending, it's really about awareness. Yes. of where things are and where we're at. And the jurisdictions, yes, in the legal, lawful sense, and law for me is natural and universal law, LORE. I have nothing to do with courts. I don't have anything to do with police. It's just not my field. It's not my world. I'm a good person. I don't do anything wrong. I'm not playing in that space. But it's that, do we know who and what we are? Do we comprehend what our rights are? Because it's not cool. Here in this country, it's just not done. You don't talk about politics. You don't question that you have rights. You just do as you're told. You just sit down, shut up, do as you're told. She'll be right, mate. Just don't question. Go to the pub and have another beer for beer and circuses. distraction, distraction, distraction. So discovering this movement and realizing that Australia is a corporation that's actually on the stock market was a huge shock for me. That was one of the things that I was like, no way, and I'm going to prove you wrong. And then, of course, I found out facts and went, this is just crazy. How did we not know this? Why are we not teaching this in schools? So
Well,
that
of course,
actually set off a whole, and then self-governance. I've started connecting with a lot of origines. I mean, people call them aboriginals, but that means not original. So origines are original peoples of this land, beautiful beings who are very sovereign. They really stand in their power and they know what they're doing. And the way that they transfer knowledge in their learning, I've connected with them on how they do this, and they really had it right. It's amazing. And they step back and they allow their children the freedom of choice. They jib them when they're getting a bit too boisterous or doing the wrong thing, but they're really truly allowing those children to express and to live the learning that they need. And it's a completely different structure to what I grew up in schooling. So it's very different. But comprehending, the land and the air and the water jurisdiction and all of those sorts of things really made me stop and question even the fact that handwriting is almost not taught in schools anymore. Why is that? Why are we not doing cursive writing anymore? We know it's good for the brain. We know it's good for development. Everything is typed or talk to text these days, and that shift towards technology. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of children that need this technology because they have needs, and it certainly helps them and enables them to contribute and reflect and communicate. I don't have a problem with that. But as a general rule, there's a huge shift and swing away from things like handwriting, teaching of Latin, teaching of the root of words and what they truly mean. We used to teach that when I first started teaching, and it's just nowhere to be seen in the public schools.
right.
In some of the private, more lofty schools where, children who come from the families who are going to be future leaders, they, I'm imagining, would get that sort of education. And I can't speak as a fact because I don't know. I'm just guessing in that space. But all the evidence points in that direction that that there's definitely a distinction between the quality of what's on offer in that space and the structure. So it's a big thing, and I would highly recommend that this needs to be tabled. It really needs to come out publicly, and it really needs to be something that's a good, open, honest, authentic conversation. And self-governance is so difficult because we're so used to just being told what to do and outsourcing someone else in a compartment to do just their little part. So as a society, it's going to be messy for us to come back and learn self-governance, but that starts with self. If I can't control my own emotions and be responsible and take accountability for my own actions, natural law fits into this as well, then how am I supposed to lead other people? And that's pretty much what it's all about when you come down to it, that awareness.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. It starts with self-responsibility, what I would call radical responsibility for everything in your life, and that's not blame. That is just simple accountability. Okay, this is my life. This is the situation. I accept it. Okay, I accept. That doesn't mean I roll over and I take it. It means this is the way things are right now. I got here somehow, and I'm the ultimate authority in my life. I am the prime creator of my own life. So let me take responsibility for all of it. Some things I may be able to change, some things not right now, but that's okay. I got to start with me. That's the only place that I can start. I mean, that's everything that I teach, and when I work with people, I mean, that's where we begin, right? Is that recognition. But I want to circle back to some things that you said, because in case people don't realize, it's not just Australia that's a corporation. Every country is a corporation. And that is not conspiracy, guys. Look it up.
Fact.
You can look it up.
Fact.
It's fact.
I can attest to that because I tried to prove it wrong. I was like, that is BS. There's no way. I was one of those, there's just no way that that's true, but it actually is, I'm sorry to say. And then
Well,
that shifts your whole access, because
yeah,
if they've
because
lied about that, then what else have they lied about? And be careful, because when you start looking and researching and having that critical thinking and checking, and you cannot just Google it and expect the answers to be there, there's so much that's hidden from us. I just cannot wait for the shift, because you can see more information's coming out, and these conversations certainly raise awareness, and they certainly help. But you have to do the work yourself. You have to go and research it for yourself. You can't just blindly accept that someone said it, so it must be true. And
yeah.
that's how we've been socially engineered. That's how we've been conditioned. So, oh, they're wearing a white coat and a name tag, or they have a leadership position. They must know more than me. Their authority, I will bow down to you. We have been conditioned to do this. For years, people have been trying to get me to do PhDs, and I'm pretty stubborn. I have some friends. I've got lots of friends that have got lots of different degrees and master's degrees, and more power to them. They're very clever people, but I've got a PhD in life. I didn't want
Mm.
to do that. I just want to go and live and just get on with the job and do it. So
Well,
uh,
because also we have to be so discerning. But I mean, if you're going to go get a PhD because you'd love to do that, well, that's fantastic. But where's the information that you're learning coming from? By whose authority? Is it trickling down to us? What is the origin? Is there an agenda behind it? I mean, this is all the kind of thing that I was never taught in school. What is real critical thinking? I had to learn on my own. You have to, if you start pulling that thread of sovereignty, for example, the whole sweater unravels. And you
mm,
realize, yeah, even if we haven't been outright lied to, we have been the truth, the way things really work has been concealed, right? Even though the information is hiding in plain sight,
mhm.
most people are so well trained to live like slaves, right? And I really do mean that. Not to think for yourself, just to kind of go along with whatever they tell you, right? That they won't go and look and find the evidence that is hiding in plain sight. They won't go and look for it, right? And you're right. You have to when the fire is lit in you and you start to realize, wait a minute, this whole thing is a stitch up. The world really is a stage. I mean, I was an actor for 25 years and
Shakespeare was right.
Shakespeare was right. How many times have I heard that speech? Have I spoken that speech? All the world's a stage. He absolutely was speaking the truth, and all the men and women merely players. And you see it's, I think, become more and more obvious and transparent nowadays, that to the point where people are so paranoid that they don't believe anything that is being told to them on the news anymore. And that's good, and of course there's, one crazy rabbit hole after another. Some of them may be, more worth your time than others, but like the point is question, right? The point is don't take it for granted. That's what, to me, all learning reimagined is, right? You can't just accept what's being fed to you in a textbook because it comes from a scholastic publisher. Who was behind that? Who funded that scholastic publisher? I mean, one of the things that came out recently was Robert Maxwell, the father of Ghislaine Maxwell, was the owner of the Pergamon Press, and they are the ones who published the scholastic textbooks, at least in the United States. All the ones that I was given in the public school system came from there.
Exactly.
So what
And as a
agenda?
teacher, you're given curriculum to teach. We never questioned that. I never questioned that. I was given it, and it was, this is what you need to teach. Okay. And that's just what you did. You just, that whole and with earnest, you truly believed that you were doing the right thing. And because there's fantastic, amazing, beautiful people in all of these systems, not knowing that we're perpetuating the system. And the word, when you mentioned slave, I remembered what I forgot before. What I was saying was um, service to self and service to others. And what I realize now today is that that is still making you a slave. if you're serving yourself and serving others, you are still in slave mentality. It shouldn't be that you have to serve anyone. It is you contribute. You have choice and you contribute from the heart space. You don't have to serve anyone. It's you don't have to bow down to anyone. You are your own strong sovereign person, and you anchor in what you believe and what resonates with yourself. So when you listen to your body and when you say a word or you hear something and you go, I don't really know about that, it doesn't quite resonate with me. And it might not mean that it's not true, it just might be that it's bumping up against a belief system that you've had programmed, and you need to stop and sit with it for a while and then decide what you want to do with that information. And this is the problem with schools today. There's no space to stop and think, and teaching children to make these really important decisions, which you do in life. Should I marry that person? Should I buy that house? Should I go on that trip? These big life decisions they should sit and really feel into it, and not just do whatever they're told to do, but listen to their own self. That if we all did that, then the world would be a better place, that's for sure.
Can we come back to this service to self, service to other split? Because I feel something really true in what you just said. That is another duality. And it's used, especially nowadays, it's used to make people feel guilty. You're either service to self or service to others, and you've got to choose. If your service to self means you're an asshole and a jerk, and all you care about is yourself. If service to others is good, service to self is bad. That is just another duality. Service to others it seems like, okay, well, that must be the good thing. I've got to be in service to others. Okay, I've got to serve. I need to serve, right? That's where a lot of the New Age mentality goes, right? But is it just another more subtle form of slavery that keeps you in submission and also in self-judgment, right? Oh, I can't be in service to myself. I have to be in service to others because that's good and the other one is bad. So we're still caught up in a duality there. So I love where you took that, which was, it's really about contribution, and we can only contribute from our space of sovereignty, from knowing who we are, why we're here, and what our unique gifts are to contribute to society. And we can't do that from a place of self-abnegation. We can't do it from a place of, I have to make myself small and humble because inside me is a monster. The ego is bad, and human beings are terrible. And that's another narrative that is really very strongly perpetuated, is how bad and rotten human beings are. And I'm doing my best to counter that with every podcast episode. I believe in the human being. I think we're extremely noble, and our true nature is creative and peaceful and good. That we've just been warped and twisted over many eons of mind control and parasitism, frankly. And so, I want to bring back and restore our faith in the real human. And I think that's one of the things that we're wanting to cultivate in learning environments again. And by the way, learning environments for me are not just about children and school, right? I I have to immerse myself every day. I immerse myself in a learning environment. I'm constantly listening to podcasts and books and people who inspire me, and opening my perspective up every single day, because I feel like I spent so many years of my life, being just brainwashed and, only in a very narrow neurological pathways. So I'm trying to break all of the programming that was instilled in me. And I believe that I do break it every single day. And I open myself up to more and more and more. So I think all learning reimagined, which I'm seeing behind you on your screen, right? It inspires me every time I see it. I understand it more deeply, because we're not just talking about children. We're talking about the child in us, like the golden child, who's no longer naive, but innocent, right? We reclaim our human innocence when we let go of our naivete, right? The naivete that is bred into us, which is to not question, to just blindly trust authority, to go along with what they say, you know, do what the government says, they take care of us. Blah, blah, blah. All of that is just, you know, globally and as a humanity, we're having to reconcile the fact that that's just not true, that they did not have our best interests at heart, and we're having to grow up and let go of that naive attitude. And you know, it hurts. there's you experience a lot of emotions along the way, but then you find again your innocence, your true innocence, which is innate to humanity, I feel, you know, which is our sense of wonder and goodness and creativity and the expression of spiritual gifts. So, you know, that's where we're going again. It seems to me.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. And while you were talking about, human beings being, humane, and I was thinking, they know not what they do. People are not even aware, many people are not even aware of what's even happening and in that space. To go back to the service to self and service to others, absolutely, the new age society, the new age religion, because it is a religion, and I can speak from it because I was in it for many years, truly believed in it until I didn't. I popped that bubble because I could feel that something was off, something just didn't fit because it was outside of myself. And I had to come back and listen to myself. And I was like, hey, it's just something's not quite right here. But when people say, okay, well, how can you contribute? And I do agree with that schooling and education doesn't have to be about children. We've got amazing retirees in every society. Our elders hold so much passion and knowledge and wisdom, and they are an untapped resource, in my opinion, for community to learn from. And it's one of my passion projects, which I really would love to see one day and could happen at any given time. Anyone could pick this up and run with it. Would be a way to contribute to your society, would be for every school or learning environment or community centre to have something called a bartering barn. So a bartering barn could be, a shed, a barn, a room, a hall, whatever the structure happens to be, but a place where children or people from any age can grow food and contribute contribute to the bartering barn, or they're fixing old broken anything. They're making wooden toys, they're sewing, they're knitting, they're, dot, dot, dot. They're doing food preservation and making jams. So they're actually doing something for a purpose that could be put in the bartering barn for the community to run with the children. You don't need money. You don't need money as a resource in order to share and learn. And can you imagine a community that's thriving? The amount of things that would be recycled and not having to be thrown in the trash, which is certainly helping, our environment, of course, but that sense of learning how to fix things and the skill sets and the camaraderie and the relationships and that sense of accomplishment and contributing whatever your passion happens to be. And then you get to dip your toe and learn a lot of different skills and then see, oh, I really enjoyed that. I loved painting. I think I'm going to paint. And creativity can be anything. It can be metalwork, it can be woodwork. It doesn't have to be a paintbrush or actual art, not to mention music. And then someone might come along and say, well, look, I'd really love some eggs from the chooks, but I don't have anything to barter. Well, great. You can go and weed our garden for half an hour. And then there you go. There's your eggs. You can have an act of service. That everyone's got something to contribute.
Well, and can you imagine?
Just that one idea is that's it. So when people say, well, what does that look like? It's all well and good for you to say that, but what does that look like? Well, there's one idea that ticks all the boxes for any age and wouldn't need much, doesn't have to be fancy schmancy. Just set it up with what you've got, where you are, and it's completely run by volunteers, or put the children on as to roster it, because and then the children get a sense of, oh well, 5 oranges for that fixed football. They get that sense of what are things worth, and then they get to actually barter and play. Because I know there's a lot of kids out there, they don't know how to give change, they don't know what to do with money. That skill has been lost in
Well,
many
it
different
it
societies.
also removes the limitation that, especially for, the older generations, has been totally embedded into us, which is, well, can I afford it? Can I afford this? Do I have enough money? That is just completely programmed into everybody, right? And if you're not dealing with money anymore, you're dealing with exchange, right? Exchange of energy. What does 5 oranges mean to you? Well, it might mean a lot to you, or it might mean nothing to you. It depends on what you value and what you need it for. Um, so what would it be like to not have to uh, limit yourself because you're accustomed to thinking about money, how much money you have or don't have, and to have your needs met. And actually the thing is, our needs are always met. We just don't realize it. We're so programmed. And
Mm-hmm.
this brings me back to our previous discussion about corporations. I mean, Teresa, what does it mean? The fact that Australia is a corporation, the fact that the United States, Canada, all the European countries, every country basically on the planet is a corporation. What does that mean for us?
Um, oh, that's a really big question. Um, it means that people have inadvertently, because they didn't realize it. So when you when you're born and you get that birth certificate, you're actually then in their jurisdiction of the corporation. So once you comprehend the system and how it happens, and all roads lead to Rome, because there's all these different areas to do with the wealth in the UK, and but the strong arm, it all does actually lead to Rome. And it's a spiritual thing at the same time, giving away that power and giving away that sovereignty. There are a lot of people on the planet that are claiming their own country. They're setting up their own trusts. They're doing a lot of different things to try and work outside of the system. There's a lot of common law groups. I did go and check them all out and completely got confused and bamboozled. It was so overwhelming to get started and think, I don't know what I don't know. And it just felt discombobulating. I was just like, oh my gosh. But when you know better, you do better. And comprehending the jurisdiction and what you can do, and the fact that I am a living woman. I am not a piece of paper, and I am not that name in all caps lock, which is a glossa, dog Latin. I am not that identity. So I am a living woman, and I'm here. I'm standing. I'm breathing, and I actually have sovereign power when it comes to natural and universal law. I have dominion over my own world. And so when we stand in our own truth and, go to an international airport and they want to take a photo, and I can say, no, I decline. Oh, no, 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 it's mandatory. Well, mandatory is actually not law. It's not compulsory. I decline. You do not need to take my photo. Thank you very much. So when you just stand, you don't have to be nasty about it. You just politely and be strong in your intention and stand in your truth. And the more people that do that, we wouldn't be in this mess that it is. But once again, by design, in my opinion, there are so many people that are working 2 jobs for a family, and they barely see their children, and they're working, trying to pay more taxes and more taxes, and they're stuck in this trap, and they're so distracted. It's not their fault. They don't have time to investigate and to look down these paths if it's not really presented to them in that space. Whereas if it was in schools and you were learning from the get-go that this is the structure, this is the land jurisdiction, this is what this means, and these businesses and corporations come under this jurisdiction, and I can't even tell you off the top of my head because I don't know it deeply enough, but I do comprehend the jurisdictions, and I know that if something came up, that I know where to go and find the information that I
Mm.
need at any given time. So I think it's a matter of awareness and the fact that we do need to educate ourselves. And I love the fact that you said you educate yourself every day. I do the same thing. I'm constantly listening, learning, talking. I talk to people all over the globe constantly, weekly, and ask them, what's your perspective? What's it like in your country? And quite often they're telling me things that I'm not seeing on my television or media here. I remember, I think it was last year, I was talking to a friend of mine in Canada. I was saying, oh, how were those fires? It was terrible, must have been terrible. And they said, what are you talking about? There's no fires here. Yeah, no, it's on our news. It's everywhere. It's shocking. Like, oh, I really feel for you. No, there's no fires here. And then it makes you question, well, what? Once again, it's another narrative putting people in fear state. I don't even watch TV, not anymore, not unless I need to get information. But at this stage, I just do not trust the information. And then it's a matter of what can I anchor on? The only thing I can anchor on is myself and my own experience, and so everything that I've shared today, I'm not an expert. I'm just speaking from my heart and I'm speaking from my personal experience. I've taught in London, I've taught in the Outback, I've taught in big cities, capital cities, I've taught in online schools, in distance education. Um, I've taught in mainstream classrooms, I've taught in high school, I've taught in primary schools, I've taught in kindergartens, I've taught everywhere. I've sort of tried it all. And I've been in education leadership for such a long time. So I can only speak from my heart and from my experience. And that's pretty much all we can do is go, okay, where am I at? And what's my next step? And then just follow the breadcrumb that your own self gives you. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the more we talk, the more I'm realizing just how interconnected everything is, right? I mean, the fact that countries are actually corporations means that we're just treated like commodities, and not like the humans, the beings that we actually are, living men and women. And and then, so of course, it makes total sense that we should be given an educational system that reinforces that that reality, on one level, because if that's how you experience things, if you don't know any better, and if you use words that you don't understand without questioning them, then you, by tacit consent, enter into that jurisdiction, right? And you have, for all intents and purposes, sold yourself, without even realizing it, into that slavery. And then you enter into an educational system that's designed to reinforce that. And most people live and die without ever knowing who they really are and why they're here.
yeah, because it's all contracts. That's what I've come to realize is that everything we do is a contract. We're contracting it. Whether you're signing on the dotted line, autographing, if you're a living man or woman, you autograph, you don't sign. But even verbal contracts, your word is your bond. Let's have the handshake. All of those sorts of things where you're making that agreement. It's an energetic agreement. And so everything we do here in this realm, on this earth, is a contract in that space. And that's why a lot of people will say, hey, that went to court and it got thrown out. Why is that? They had a great case, blah, 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 because they didn't know how to play the game with the jurisdictions. So as soon as you understand, understand, because if you say understand, you're standing under them, and then all of a sudden you're giving your power to them. Just if they say, do you understand? And you say yes, you've just agreed to stand under them. They've got you. It's that, this is insane. But this is how it's played. This is how these big corporations and businesses get away with what they get away with, because they comprehend how to play the game. Because in my opinion, they are trained in whatever schools or education they go to. They're taught how to play the game.
Yes.
So
The
it's an
knowledge is there.
unfair playing field. It's an unfair playing field. I really feel that that's shifting very quickly, though. It's just shifting so quickly. And gigs up. Too many people know you can't put the shit back in the horse, quite frankly. It's out there. So, and And, we're getting on with the job. So people can either walk around and go, oh, what can we do? Says how many billion people on the planet. Well, if everybody said, I decline, no more, I do not comply, everybody just wants to live in peace and have a wonderful life and adventure and have freedom and abundance. That should be for all, not just a select few. We are not cattle. We are not clones. Well, some of us might be, but that's a whole nother conversation. So, it's just, it's enough now. We're here to explore and express and live learning and enjoy the ride. Let's get back to play and creativity and music and drama and dance and yeah.
This is such a full conversation, and there's still so many places that I want to go. Would you just tell me a little bit more about you in a previous conversation, you mentioned to me that you've had supernatural and intuitive experiences from childhood that have shaped you, obviously. Would you be willing to share one of those that left a lasting impression on you, or that that shifted your path somehow?
I've had many. Some that I probably wouldn't want to share publicly because they were really huge. And I'm still reconciling some of them of, oh, did that really happen? But yes, it did. I feel like there's just layers upon layers. It's a really big one to answer. Let's just say that the human eyesight doesn't see everything that's around us. I feel, science can back that up. We only see a small percentage of what we can see. I mean, you just have to look at a dog or a cat and they're watching something bounce around you and they can see something, but we can't see them. So one of my experiences would be the fact that I can see things. And I don't always see it for a long time, but I see sometimes it's a glimpse. And I would say that's really shifted me when I'm talking to a person and their eyes blink in a different direction than what we're used to seeing them blink and slide sideways. And you just go, what? This isn't Men in Black. Like, this isn't a movie. But I've seen it too many times now over the years for it not to be true, to go, okay, well, what are you? Who are you? What are you? And even though the being in front of me, looked human and was lovely, beautiful, beautiful being, I just knew and sensed that they weren't necessarily human. And I have had that experience over the years with some children as well. They have different energy. Doesn't mean I don't still love them and, care for them and play with them and do whatever. But just that sense of, and that actually makes me a better educator in the sense that I need to constantly go, okay, one size doesn't fit all. If I say it this way, does that suit everybody in the room? Because you really have big classrooms these days. And so I've learned to present information in many different ways so that children can tap in from any different space from wherever they're at. Because I know for a fact that, where, people sort of say, oh, the aliens are coming. I'm sorry to say, guys, they're already here. They've been here for a very long time. And I'm just going to put it out there because I've seen them. And, so that's probably, without going into details, because I think that will probably give some things away that I probably shouldn't do at this stage. All I can say is that a lot of the things that you see in movies as propaganda, just because someone or a being in front of you looks different does not mean that they're not a beautiful heart-centered being and that they're, here to, there should be no fear at this stage. And I feel like on the internet these days, there's a lot of propaganda and fear about all different types of races. And you do create your reality. So I only have really loving beings around me anyway at any given time because that's what I attract. but I don't buy into all of that sort of fear. So yeah, eyes are a giveaway for me because, and you can usually, and also entities. I know there's a lot of people who have talked about entities over the years, and there's a lot of different names that you can say for whatever an entity is. But I've taught and met and worked with many people that I do believe have entities in them that do come out as alternative personalities. And you can name it however you choose, but once again, that really is something that you need to consider. um, the giveaway for me is the left eye, actually. Usually, when I look in the person's left eye, you can tell if there's a difference in color or shape. Darkness is usually something there, but also light. How much light is in someone's eyes as to how much they are in light being. And um, it's one of the first things that I do to tap into someone's energy and feel into their energy. And quite often I see things.
Have you
Wow,
all?
I wasn't expecting to say any of that.
I can't resist. Uh, well,
It's true though. All I can do is speak from experience. This is what I've experienced. This is the perspective that I can come from. Yeah.
and that's why I'm so glad that you're sharing it with us. I mean, we really only should speak from things that are of our direct experience. And, we can't make claims. We can say, I'm told that, or I've heard that, or, share what we've experienced directly, and you've experienced it directly. And so did you always have this ability, like even as a child, or is it something that developed or?
I would say yes, but I shut it down as a child. I know I could see things as a child. I know I saw. I've seen. I know this is going to sound really crazy now, but I've seen whales floating in the sky. Like it's like there's an ocean above us. And as a child, I have memories of lying back going, wow, look at that. And they weren't clouds. They weren't clouds. And I do have a distinct memory of that, but I only remembered that a few years ago, actually. And because I was listening to a podcast and someone mentioned it, and I was like, oh, I've seen that. So I completely resonated with what that person was sharing. Anybody else would probably think, oh, they've gone crazy. But you know what? A unicorn could walk down the main street these days, and I would go, sure, why not? Because quite frankly, I'm questioning anything and everything. So I just don't know anymore. So, bring it on. I
Well,
just
if
want to know the truth.
we got to just bring Shakespeare back in because, he did say there's more in heaven and earth than is dreamt of in your philosophy, Horatio. And it's true. I think, we've been under the veil for so long. We've been
Yeah.
asleep for so long. And we're starting to just open our eyes. The veil is really thinning. That's my experience. But like, and what's happening with the thinning of the veil is this revelation of, oh wow, there we are really literally surrounded. There's everything that we can't see,
Yeah.
that some people can see. We're not just living on the crust of the earth, on the surface. That we're living underneath the earth. There are beings underneath the earth. There are beings living in the oceans. There are
Mm-hmm.
beings living out there. Off planet and all over the planet. I mean, for me, that's a given. There's never been a time when I didn't believe in aliens or extraterrestrials. That just seems like common sense to me. But what is really exciting is seeing more and more people open up to the ideas. That, well, maybe reality is not what we thought it was. What we're really doing is questioning the nature of reality. What is the actual nature of reality? And realizing that we've been, in our Truman Show and just in such a very, very limited bandwidth of experience and kept there. We've been kept there, and waking up to what's outside of that is an experience that millions of people are going to, in a very short order, live through. And what is that going to bring? I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel like this is coming really soon.
Oh gosh, yes. I'm surprised it hasn't already happened, because energetically we've been feeling it for quite a while. And I think it was about 4 years ago I was preparing for it. And I was even I even created slides to help run workshops on the stages of grief with the disbelief and then the anger and going through the whole stages up to acceptance and going, okay, I can help people in my community. I'll be able to talk them through it because I've just been through it. Of the, what do you mean it's not real? What are you talking about? And I'm a really logical person and going, no, I'm going to prove you wrong. And now I've seen things in the last few years. I cannot question it. And some of it just seems so strange. But I've lived it, I've seen it, I've experienced it, I've felt it. And even in that space, what I've discovered is that there's nothing to be afraid of. We're really powerful and we have, um, I think there's a fear of the unknown, but if you use your words or you're standing in intention and you are standing strong, it's like that whole rock and water thing, and you're just strong in yourself and you know who and what you are, they leave you alone. They
Mm.
really do leave you alone. They don't mess with you. Um, and then you can connect with elements. I've had a lot of amazing experiences with our elements, particularly our air. Massive storms coming, and I can go out and just talk and say, no, we want gentle soaking rain. Anything that's damaging, you can go out to sea. We don't want you, and you just talk to it, and it literally dissolves or goes away. And it's like, oh wow, that was a coincidence. The first two, three, four, five times. Now it's just normal. And it's not
Yeah.
going out and demanding or commanding, but see, we've been conditioned to pray and beg and ask. I'm sorry, no, you tell, you command, you just state it. And this is the social conditioning we've had for millennia. Like it's in our epigenetics to be this weak being where there's all these other powerful things around us that have more power than us. No, they don't. Sorry. Um, and that's taken me a long time to say that and not feel uncomfortable because I had to shed all of that belief system. At first, I couldn't even say that. I thought, oh, you can't say that. But now I'm just like, no, yeah, actually, I can. And so, yes, I do see beings, and some of them might be dark, and some of them might be, shadowy and a bit freaky. And I'll just say, no, sorry, don't think so. And they disappear, they dissolve, they go away because they can see that they're not going to get anywhere. But I have seen them attached to other people in front of me. Supermarkets are a freak show because you can see
Oof.
them attaching to people in supermarkets and walking past you. But all of them are usually people that have got their head in their phone. They're licking their phone with their finger. Lick,
Mm.
lick, lick, lick. They're too busy scrolling through their phone or licking it with their finger, and they've got something attached to them because they're in their mind. They're not in their heart space. They're not present. People who are present, mate, you're untouchable. They can't come
Yeah.
anywhere near you. Your frequency is too strong. Your light is too strong. And this is what we need to have that connection to our field and to our beautiful planet. There's a whole cosmos out there. You can't honestly think that we are alone. That's just delusional. All programming. So,
Agreed. Agreed. That is delusional, and
mm,
yet we've been taught the opposite, right? If to see what quote unquote isn't there, to sense and to know that there is life beyond our planet, that was taught to us as being delusional, right? And which is why so many of us shut up and didn't express ourselves and didn't be ourselves for so long, because so we have probably so many past life memories of dying for that, and it was very, very dangerous uh, to um, to be real. So, we carry that with us. But now it's safe to come out. It's safe to come out, despite what still happens to whistleblowers and people who end up suicided and things like that. Yes, it's still occurring, but my feeling is that it's not only safe but absolutely necessary now for everyone to be themselves and to start talking. Start being real with themselves and with one another. And same as you, Teresa, you were describing, that feeling of at first, feeling uncomfortable saying the truth, which is that we have a natural authority as human beings, when we know who we are, where we came from, and why we're here, it took me some time to accept that within myself. Because, yeah, there is a program that says, how dare you think that you have any power whatsoever? That's been well ingrained in us. But once you let that go, it's not from a place of grandiosity or, overblown ego. It comes from the heart space, and you're actually in harmony with all of creation. You're not commanding the winds to you're not commanding the winds to blow softly out of a massive ego. You're doing it because you realize that you are connected and that you are in harmony with all creation, and that you are relating to creation from love and respect, right? And a recognition of our connectedness.
Mm.
That's what it really is. It's our the knowingness of the heart that says, I'm one with all of this. And so why would I be cruel or unkind? Why would I be disrespectful? I'm one with all of it. So I can stand in my authority as a human being, and I can declare my field, and I can say, what I will and will not accept. And
Mm.
you know, I
Especially if
mean,
it's destructive. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
if it's destructive. I mean, I've met a lot of people now, and interacted with a lot of people who have been massively psychically attacked, and I know that that is going on for sure. But it doesn't have it doesn't to be open, to be aware, and to be awake does not necessarily invite, as a consequence, attack.
Mm. Yeah.
If you don't invite that, and if you declare your field, you your field protects you.
I feel in two minds about that because I feel like that's me today. If something happened to me today, then I've actually allowed that to happen on some level. I have allowed that to happen. However, I have had um, what I would call unusual attacks over the years. And for people who are listening, they're going, what are they talking about? Like, it's not a mugging in the street, it's an energetic attack. And I've had many. One of them hospitalized me. I thought I was actually going to die one night. And interestingly, it was the night before I was meant to do a large education project, and I was going to present something. Bartering Bun was part of it, to an international group. And that night, this attack happened, and I got hospitalized. And it was wild. It was wild. I actually watched the attack in my head, and I'd never had that before. I don't know how to remote view. I don't have any of those skills that different people talk about. I know that there are people that do have those skills, but I do not. This night, I actually did. And it changed me forever. And so then I was going into a hospital going, oh my gosh, hospitals are vulnerable places, and we're not lying on linen sheets anymore and getting out into the sun, which is what they used to do to help you heal. You're lying on plastic sheets with all of this frequency and EMF basically radiating you, and you don't know who's walking through the door because, let's face it, not everyone around us is who they say they are. So that was a great lesson for me because I learned how to bring out my own light and my own guardian and set my own intention and boundaries to protect myself. Whereas today, I don't feel like I need to protect myself, but back then I did. So it was a really good learning lesson. But I do agree with you. It's safe now. It wasn't always. Is probably where I would come from. It was not always. Some of the stuff I've seen, I won't talk about it now, but the old me would have thought I was being ridiculous. I just would have gone, oh, for heaven's sake, you're an educated woman. What are you talking about? Now that I've lived it, I'm here to say I'm sorry. I was wrong. I'm first to admit I was absolutely wrong. Um, and happy to be, because I'm loving this. It's so exciting. And I cannot wait for these experiences to happen for everybody else so that they can get on board. It's just going to be messy, but beautiful. I mean, it's just like one of those big messy desserts, but oh my gosh, it's so delicious. So I love it. I love life. Otherwise, it's so boring. You know, what do we want to do? Go to work, come home, have dinner, watch Netflix, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Like, that's not life. So let's spice it up a bit. And it's getting spicy. Geez whiz. Between now and the end of the year, it's, you know,
Super
throw in a
spicy.
few chilies, baby.
So, Teresa, what soul truth are you here to awaken in others?
Soul truth. Oh, I love that. Um, I um I come from a space of joy and play. It's my natural default personality. I really struggle to be serious. Even when I'm serious, I still always have a big grin on my face. And people often say, what's that secret? Like, you know, like how Mona Lisa's got a smile because she's hiding something. It's the same sort of feel. Why are you happy? I don't know. I just am. Really, life's great. So I would say follow your highest excitement. And if it's not your highest excitement, it's not your path. Don't do it because you have to. I call it masturbating. So definitely not masturbating, masturbating, M-U-S-T. Stop masturbating. I must do this. I must do that. No, stop. You don't have to do it at all if it's not your highest excitement. So I feel like it's follow your passion, and your joy, and because your emotions are your GPS. Your emotions are telling you if you're off course, and your emotions are telling you if you're on track. And so your own body is giving you signals all of the time. It's just we have to take the time to stop and listen. So that's probably what's coming up for me right now. I know that part of my mission here is to inspire. It's something I've done my whole life. And I don't know how to be fake. Like I'm just me, 100%, warts and all, just authentic. And, you know, people judge me for that. I really don't care. That's not my problem. That's their problem. And I feel like having the courage to just be yourself is where we're meant to be. So that's what I would encourage as well. So follow your heart, get out of your head, get into your heart, follow your highest excitement.
Beautiful. One more question. What
Mm-hmm.
are you still unlearning?
Oh, the list is long. The list is color coded, Claire. It's color coded. Um, um, unlearning. I I'm still unlearning different programming that I've had, and I feel like it's an epigenetic thing. It's something that's happened for a long time. So I'm still bumping up against, um, is this me? Do I know this? Or was I told this? Do I believe it? Where did this information come from? Because there's a lot of things now that I've got this sense in my body that's a knowing. I just know. There's nothing you can do to you know, I didn't read it in a book. It's not an expert. I just know this. Um, and yet other times I'm not sure. I have to sort of put a pin in it and park it because I'm not quite sure. So I'm sort of still learning the signs for me to listen to myself, is definitely in that space. I feel, I think there's a lot of things about being a woman and being the good girl and doing the right thing and being nice. You know, nice is such a bland blur word. It should just be blown up, quite frankly, like nice. But, you know, lo and behold, if I actually look up the real meaning, it probably means something completely different. But, you know, you just have to be the nice, good girl, compliant, do as you're told, don't shake, you know, don't rattle any cages. Now I'm learning to that I don't have to be that way. And I don't mean become too masculine, you know, the women who are like, oh, we don't need men. Of course we need men. So being feminine, but being able to to push back on some of that programming that you're supposed to look pretty and speak when you're spoken to, that sort of stuff that's still there for females. For women, I feel like that is still ingrained and comes out in different situations. And then that annoys me that I just go straight back into that default personality um, at times. So it doesn't happen very often but every now and then it does. And it's just like, what is this?
Mm,
So yeah.
yeah, part of that deprogramming, right? Well,
Yeah.
when you said the word nice, it sparked something that I remembered about the origin of that word. So I quickly looked it up, and I think we
Ooh.
could perhaps end on this hilarious note. The word nice originates from the Latin necius, meaning ignorant or not knowing.
Uh, uh, Mic drop. I rest my case.
Women are
Exactly.
supposed to be nice.
Right. Oh my God. See, this is what I mean. Like just
Be
one,
careful. We got to be careful of the words we use.
don't even know what we're saying. We do not. And words have frequencies, it has coding. You can feel it. It is so important. Our language and our communication. This is my next adventure to sort of dive more into this. Now I'll say a word and go, oh, it doesn't feel right. And
Yeah.
so then I try and sometimes I can't even find the word. The English language sucks, quite frankly. You know, I just maybe I just need to learn a different language. That'd be easier.
Well, I mean, do a whole podcast season on exposing words for what they really are, you know, word revelation.
Love
That
it.
would be super fun. Um,
Yeah, love it.
well, this has been such a delight and so joyful. It's been such a privilege to have you here in the grace space with us. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for offering your wisdom, your many years of experience in education, and this beautiful light that's coming out through your eyes and your heart. And it's been a real joy to have you here. Thank you so much, Teresa.
Thank you, Claire. Coming from you, who's such a powerhouse, you're just amazing, such a beautiful, gorgeous being. That really means a lot. Love it. Thank you for asking me.
I always feel so inspired and optimistic and hopeful after a conversation with Teresa. You know, conversations like this remind me that learning was never meant to be confined to classrooms or to institutions. It's really, it affirms all of the feelings I had as a child, like, that so many people have as children, that children have, about going to school. Because learning is really a living process, something that unfolds through curiosity and experience and relationship and the courage to question what we've been taught, not to shut up and repeat. If there's one thread that runs through this entire dialogue, it's the idea of sovereignty. And this is something that Teresa and I talk about a lot, the recognition that each of us has the capacity to think, to feel, to learn, to create from our own center of truth, because we are connected to an infinite field that knows everything, that is everything. And we have access to that field through our heart. So, whether we're speaking about children in schools or adults unlearning old conditioning or communities rediscovering more natural ways of living and learning, the invitation is the same: to pause, to listen, to ask deeper questions, and to remember who we truly are. And if you ask me, all learning does need to be reimagined now. As Teresa says in the conversation, our emotions are like a compass, like a kind of inner GPS that's guiding us back towards what is alive, what is meaningful, what is true. So perhaps the real work of education for children and adults alike is not simply acquiring information to parrot back so we can get to the next level in the educational system, but it is the ongoing process of awakening the wisdom that already lives within us. We have that wisdom, even though we may have been conditioned to believe that we don't. We have it through our hearts. We're connected to the source of all. So thank you again for being here. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, keep returning to the grace space within your own heart. See you soon. Until then, walk in grace. You've been listening to The Grace Space. To amplify this field, you're welcome to like, subscribe, or share. Thank you.